back to another episode of Good Times Ahead. I'm your boy Tanner Thompson, and this is my boy Nick Eustace. We have two special guests on today. First off, you guys met him before. We got Jake Evans.
One special guest.
One special guest.
Thanks.
One and a half special guests. You guys know Jake from one of the first episodes we did. Our boy from around here, Notre Dame captain, current Montreal Canadians forward, centerman. And then next up, we got Scarborough's own, Tyler Toffoli. Drafted by the Kings in 2010, the second round. Manchester AHL Rookie of the Year. And then we got Stanley Cup Champion in 2014.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Welcome,
Cool.
Tyler. Welcome.
Thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, so
Anytime, man.
Tyler and Jake played together on the Canadians the past 2 years, right? 2 years. So they lived in the same little area. So Jake got us the connection. So thanks for coming on, brother.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Do you just want to start off just growing up in Scarborough? I know I know a few Scarborough boys, and they're very proud of being from Scarborough. Is that the same case with you?
Yeah. So I growing up in Scarborough, definitely just in the Toronto area, hockey is one of the things that parents and kids kind of eat, sleep, and breathe. And I think for myself, when I got to high school, I went to Birchmount High School, and I was in the beat program there. So from there, it was kind of hockey on. But growing up, I played hockey, baseball, basketball. I kind of played every type of sport, and it was always kind of one of those things. My parents wanted me to play everything, and it wasn't only about hockey for me. Until obviously it got to that point. I think I was like 13, 14, where I had to make the decision to kind of stick to it full time, and that's when I got drafted to the OHL and moved away from home.
Before that, you were with the 92 Canadians, right?
I was.
I remember because me and Evie played on the 96 Canadians, and like growing up, you guys were like the team.
Yeah, I think we were the team that kind of started the GTHL movement of basically importing players into the Toronto area. Kids moving from California, Ottawa, just to play on our team because we were just that well known and that good of a team. And I think the Bantam year, I don't think we lost a game the entire season. How many games do you play? Like 70 games, whatever it is. I think we went like 70-0 or 72-0.
That's
and
insane.
Then our minor midget year, I think we lost like maybe 4 games, and all 4 of those games, it was like devastating. It was like, the Stanley Cup for the teams that beat us, you know what I mean? So It was definitely an experience, and from what I've heard, it's only kind of gotten worse in the GTHL within the parents and all that stuff. So
There was a lot less rules back then too, right? With that sort of thing. So I'm sure the parents were a lot grittier back then.
Yeah, it was definitely. It was always a factor. Every year there were new kids coming in, and like I said, our team was just like so good that what is it? You have like 3 lines in the GTHL, maybe 3 lines and 1 extra. All 3 lines, if we were on different teams, would have been the best line on the Marlies or the Nats or the Red Wings, whatever other team. So that's just how good we were. It's pretty impressive.
Did you guys win the OHL Cup?
We did.
Nice.
I want to say we lost one of the games in the OHL Cup, but I could be wrong. But we won. Honestly, I don't think we lost a tournament.
Is that the biggest win?
There might have been like one tournament in like the 6-7 years that I played in that we lost, and it was, like I said, it was just like devastating. And from what I remember, it's like what?
Is that the biggest win of your career, Toff?
What's that?
The OHL Cup? Is that the biggest win of your career?
It was, yeah, I'll put that in the top 3.
Top 3? That's not bad.
So you got drafted to who in the OHL? Where'd you go?
Ottawa. I went. So speaking of our team, I think we had our entire team got drafted to the OHL.
That's crazy.
Except for like maybe 1 or 2 guys, and the one guy didn't get.
I know that feeling.
And then we had like four or five first rounders. We would have had one more, but he committed to the U.S. program, so he went there instead of getting drafted in the first round. So I went. We had like the first overall pick, 6. I went 7. Yeah, and then we had guys that went 9 and 12, and then the rest kind of sprinkled through the rest of the draft.
And your coach was it Brian Correa? He's like the all-time winning coach.
I had Killer for my first year. It was kind of like his farewell tour. I think he was, I can't even remember how old he was. But we had the exact same practice every single day, and I'm not even exaggerating. The same 4 or 5 drills every single day. I think practice was like 25 minutes. I mean, obviously it was hard, but nowhere near as hard as the practices the next 3 years of my junior career. So it was kind of funny.
For sure. A bunch of robots out there, right? Just the same drills over and over again.
Every single day.
Whatever. It's fun, though. And then talk about the transition into getting drafted by LA. I know that's kind of like a big place to go when you're so young, right? Like it's probably intimidating.
Were you 18 when you were drafted?
Yeah.
When you left?
What is it? 17, 18, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't have a late birthday or anything. So, so basically I was supposed to be the first round pick, but the first 2 years of my junior career, I kind of coasted through in the sense of using my skill only and not training a whole lot. I think I had like 37 goals and 70 points or something along those lines. And I ended up dropping to 47 to LA. And when I got to LA, it was definitely an awakening in the sense of the way the pro life is, in the sense of training and starting to treat your body a little better and all those things. And like I said, I got a pretty rude awakening getting there, and definitely my mentality changed the next my 3rd and 4th year back in Ottawa.
What was the biggest shock transitioning into the league and LA itself? Like just moving from Toronto to LA in general would be a pretty big culture shock.
I think LA is technically the furthest place from Toronto to get drafted to. So my parents weren't too thrilled at first.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they wanted me to spend the summers out there and work out with the NHL guys. Who was it at the time? Jared Stoll, Matt Green, a bunch of guys. So I started working out with them, and that's when I had the awakening in the sense of, holy shit, I'm extremely out of shape and I can't get by with my skill any longer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how, my mentality changed, in the sense of trying to work harder and get better and not kind of go through the motions, especially in the summer, because that's where you need to build, and that's the only time you can really train. Because during the season, obviously, you're just trying to, maintain whatever you do in the summer.
Mm. What was it like dealing with like guys like Brown and Kopitar, like such high-profile guys in a big like LA? Like it's kind of crazy. Any cool stories about that?
I think my first training camp with the Kings, they had like 5 lines or whatever it is. So there's like, first line was in like baby blue, and I think it was Kopi, Dustin Brown, and Ryan Smith on the first line. And then like the second line was like Jared Stoll, Justin Williams, and someone else. But long story short, my first rep in like the down low 3-on-3s, Kopi got the puck, and I swear on my life, he danced all 3 of us and just went like backhand shelf, and we got back in line, and I was like, holy shit, that guy's really good at hockey. And, at the time, obviously, the LA Kings were like an up-and-coming team, but you know how it is. They're not really on TV a whole lot. It's normally like Toronto, Montreal, or Boston, New York. So you don't really see the guys on LA. And I didn't realize how big Kopi was. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds, and one of the top 10 most skilled players in the NHL. So actually seeing him kind of move around and just play hockey was honestly incredible.
Evie, did you ever have a holy shit moment with anyone on Montreal?
Probably like mine would be when in practice when you see Weber taking slap shots and you're like clear the way.
I'm not blocking that.
Not a chance.
I think that's probably mine where you like notice someone's skill or just he's a physical specimen and just the
He
way
just looks
shoots
like a freak.
Yeah, but like the way he shoots a puck, like just clear the way. Like don't even go near it.
Yeah,
I was going into my 9th NHL season and practicing with him, seeing his one-timer still like shook me. And that's like that's just how hard this guy shot the puck.
He wouldn't even shoot it as hard as he could.
And he doesn't let up in practice, or didn't let up in practice. Like
but
doing power play stuff.
Yeah,
it was nuts.
Yeah.
Automatic broken foot. Automatic.
Oh no, guys aren't blocking a shot. I'm talking about like we're throwing like 3rd, 4th goalies in net, and they're taking like one-timers off the
He
collar.
cut open a goalie's face with his shot once. It was just right off the helmet. I don't know how it broke. You know, remember McNiven's face? Oh, I don't know if you were there for that.
I heard about this.
We were going into the bubble like a week before, and that's like when like Carey wouldn't go in net for those shots. So like McNiven goes in, and you feel bad for him. He's taking one-timers from Weber, and then like I don't understand how it still worked, but Weber took a slap shot, hit him right in the face.
Yeah,
and it's like
he's probably pushing like
cut open his
110.
face. That's how hard the shot was. Like
Probably
he's got
like
a
one of these
mask
ones.
on though, but it didn't go through.
Yeah,
He
That's
just cut open his
do
whole
you have a
face.
scar right here, like every other hockey player, or like top of your nose?
Not as bad as what Jake would get, or like or Gally would get during the season.
Yeah,
they're a little grittier than I am on the ice.
just reopens every game.
You had the one game. Was it against Ottawa?
Like what went?
You had the one, or Ottawa or someone. You had like in less than a minute. You
No,
got
it was
hit.
against him. Our first.
Was it against
game.
Calgary?
Yeah.
And you just got off the ice. You were like,
I
fuck.
got hit
Fuck
3
this.
times in the face in like 20 seconds.
You remember
But like even when I was in Montreal, there'd be like a game like first shift, his nose would be bleeding, and this is the same as Gally. Then his nose would be bleeding, and then like next shift he would get hit, and then like his visor would cut his chin, his cheek, and then after the game, I'm like, "Hey, do you want to hang out?" And then I like look into his eyes. I'm like, "Hey, he doesn't want to hang out. Like, he should be going home right now."
My face would just burn after games.
Always bleeding.
Gally's way worse though. Gally has just permanent scars all over his face from every game.
That guy takes a beating.
Yeah, he's like a goalie from like the 1900s, just no face mask.
Yeah.
Didn't he play your playoff run with a torn? Was it a torn groin or?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of guys were hurt. I don't really know.
Were you banged up in the playoff run, the cup run?
Honestly, so I hurt my knee earlier in the season, and I came back and I was wearing a knee brace, and I mean I don't know if you've ever worn one of those like the Don Joy knee braces. It's just like the worst thing. It makes you feel like you're 40 pounds heavier, and I ended up taking it off, and you just kind of when you take it off, you're vulnerable. So you kind of tweak. I was tweaking my knee almost like every other game, and then my groin. But that's just like the wear and tear. Every guy has something going on. Like there's not just one guy, hurt. Especially when you go all the way to the finals. Like we did.
What were those cup runs like, both in LA and Montreal?
So when we won in 14. Obviously, it was my first full. It was my first full year. I think I played 60-something games, but I started the year in the minors. But basically, when I got called up, I was up, for the remainder of the season. And once the playoffs started, that's when we were down 3-0 to San Jose in the first round.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was one of those things where we weren't giving up, but we were like, holy shit, it's going to be summer next week, basically. And we won game 4, and then we went to San Jose. We win game 5. We come back to LA, and it's game 6. And I think Quickie pitched a shutout or something. And then going back to San Jose for game 7, we're in the locker room. We're like, there's no chance we're losing this game. And I think we won. It was 6-2 with 2 empty netters, but the whole time. We knew that we weren't going to lose. And just like the leadership guys that we had on that team, it was just like there was never any letdown, or we were never like too low in a sense, even though we were down 3-0 in the series. And then after that, it was kind of like, so San Jose, and then the second round, I want to say we played Anaheim, maybe. Yeah, it was Anaheim. Same thing. We win in Game 7. Then we go to Chicago, win in Game 7 in Chicago in overtime. That's when Martinez put one in, and it was kind of one of those things where we were playing the Rangers, and we were going into the series being like, "There's no shot we're losing this series." And I think we won in 5 games, and we finished it off in LA, and it was just like it's such a surreal feeling, like a feeling like you can't even really describe. And I feel like anybody, and I think we won that Game 5 in double overtime too. So it was just like even more insane, and just something that you can never really describe, or just thinking about it gives me kind of goosebumps.
Such a cool story.
Was it a good summer?
Can't remember.
Yeah.
And then for both you guys, just the run in Montreal, like that was just a weird. Well, that was during COVID too, so it was a weird time. But what was that like? Both.
You go first, Jake.
You want to go?
I mean, mine was way different than what Toff went through. So I was banged up quite a bit. So I don't know. But I don't know. For me, you just see how long and how many games you play, and guys just get so hurt, and they just keep pushing through. And it's kind of like it was close to Toff's story about in 2014. Like we were down 3-1 to the Leafs, and it's not like we just lost 3 in a row. Like it's not looking good, right? And then you just start thinking once you get to Game 7, it's like there's no way you lose this game.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of went on from there. So
Yes.
Toff was in a bit of a different situation than I was, though.
Yeah.
So
I think it was different in the sense of like nobody gave us a chance.
Yeah.
At all in all 3 of every round, but especially against Toronto, everyone was like, Toronto in 4, Toronto in 5, blah, blah, blah. And then we win Game 1, and then everyone's like, oh, that's the last game they're winning. And then we lost 3 straight, and it's like shit. Like maybe, people were right. And then what was Game 6 in Toronto?
No, Game 6.
Right? No, Game 5.
Game 6 was Montreal, and that's when we had fans for the first time.
I was there.
That was Kotkaniemi had the OT winner.
KK scored in an OT.
Yeah.
And Game 5 was Nick and Cole 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like so funny because, well, first off, it sucked the way that all worked out because we had no fans. Yeah. And if we had fans in any of those games, could it have been different? I mean, maybe, but at the same time, for what we went through that entire time, if we had fans in Montreal, especially, it would have been the most insane time of anybody's lives. And it already was for a lot of the people in Montreal, just being on the outside, like the building that we lived in, we had to, after games, we would have to walk through the Bell Center to get to our apartment because there's no way for us to get back.
Yeah.
And,
or even remember after Vegas, we weren't allowed to leave for like 2 hours.
Oh, we stayed in the locker room for like 2 hours after the game. And
we probably would have anyways, but
just the crowds outside.
I didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Nice big cooler.
Yeah.
Well, I saw like Snapchats and Instagram videos from just like different Montreal accounts, and it looked insane. Like there's just riots going on.
Before some of the games, like we would have, like we lived on the 45th floor, so obviously that's really high up. And before games, when I'd be like getting ready to go downstairs and like walk to the rink, you hear people and like the people rioting basically already before the games even started. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. Like I felt bad for the people because that's just how bad they wanted to be inside the Bell Center. And whatever it was, they let like 2,500 people in, or they say 2,500 people, but it was for sure a little bit more. But
yeah,
I felt bad at the same time, but it was nuts.
Yeah, I think for me, like being a hockey fan my whole life, I think Montreal's probably the craziest like thing I've seen for hockey. Like more than the
Oh.
Leafs, and especially in playoffs. Like I'm sure Montreal is like absolutely the top for sure in hockey. But
It's for sure, but it's the top when you're doing well, but when you're doing poorly,
Oh.
it's
Yeah, no
the
kidding.
bottom. You know what I mean? There's no in the middle, and that's
Comes with
not,
the
that's not a
territory,
bad
right?
thing. It's just how passionate the fans are. Same with Toronto.
Yeah.
Was that the biggest change moving from LA to Montreal? Is just the fan base, or?
Well, I mean, I didn't really. It sucks. I didn't really get to experience it,
Yeah,
you know,
'cause
fully
COVID.
because by the time, I mean, obviously, last season the start wasn't the start we wanted, but with all the injuries and then with Webby, you know, shutting it down, like our team was completely different in a sense, and we had such a short summer that, you know, some guys weren't ready, and even for me, it was such a short summer. When I got back to LA after the playoff run, I basically started working out again. I took a couple days off, but like it was almost one of those things where you had to start working out right away, because if you didn't, you were, you know, not even getting a full month in of training. So it wasn't the start, and that's when we got the fans, and that's when things went south, obviously, in Montreal, and now I'm on a different team. So
how do you stay grounded going to all these places, being famous in different places? Like how do you keep yourself like aware of where your mental state is?
it's definitely different. It's like being in LA, where we live is by the beach, so it's super mellow in the sense of you can basically do whatever you want, and some people recognize you, but for the most part, it's all locals, and the most harm that anyone's going to do is buy you a beer and then you know, basically leave you alone. And in different places, it tends to be a little different. But for me, I had a bad experience in Vancouver, Montreal, or Calgary. So I mean, in Calgary, to be honest, it was the most I had gotten noticed in compared to Montreal. But like I said, Montreal was basically locked down the entire time when I was there. So
Yeah. How about you, Jake?
I only get noticed when I'm with Tyler. I'm usually the person. I'm the cameraman.
They just go, "Oh, hey,
I'm
it's
taking
Tyler's
pictures.
friend."
Can you take a photo for
that
me?
one day you were the cameraman. It was actually so funny.
That's awesome.
I don't know what we were doing, but we were just walking, and every person was like, "Excuse me, can you take a picture of us too?" And I'm just taking pictures of Tyler and fans.
You don't want to meet?
I think
No, I don't.
we were
I don't
walking-
want that. I'm just
We were
walking
walking
away.
to Galleys that day
Yeah.
when we thought it was closer than what it
Yeah.
was, and
Like
when
a
we were halfway
30-minute
there, we were
walk.
like, "Holy shit, this is way further than we need."
We're in trouble here.
We're not walkers.
Who do you think gets recognized the most in Montreal? Would it be obviously Price or even Caulfield at this point?
Cole's like very like you can just notice him because you just know he's a little shorter and like,
Yeah,
his face, I feel like you
think
just know it's him.
it must be Cole, because
Yeah,
I mean, for Carey, he wouldn't really leave the house a whole lot because he doesn't, you know, for the most part, he has his family now, and I feel like that's like the last thing you kind of want when you're with your family, and your little kids for stuff like that to happen. Whereas Cole's younger, obviously, and he's going out and putting himself in different situations, and I think he's kind of embraced the city a lot too. So I would have to say probably Cole. But
I've actually I've seen Jake get recognized once. We were at the
medieval times.
medieval times.
that was his birthday, right?
Yeah.
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 bunch of little
Over in a
French kids.
crown. Yeah,
Jake was in a cape and a crown with a sword, and after the event, the whole row behind us were kids from Montreal.
Yeah, were they like, "Good luck this year"? Like, can't wait to watch you. And
yeah.
Jake just stabs him with a sword.
I did have a sword too. Yeah.
That's awesome. I have a question for you. A bit of a weird one. Do you remember who your first goal was against, and what team? Yeah.
it was
What goalie?
It was Mike Smith when they were still called the Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah. Nice. That's my new hockey guy
Kind of
question.
helped. that makes me feel old now because they're called a different team name now, so it's different.
And they're playing
Yeah,
college.
Yeah,
Mike
they're playing.
Smith.
They're playing out of the college next year, right? Here.
Yeah, Arizona
Yeah.
State.
That's gonna be interesting.
And they can't use their logo, which is even more insane.
It looks cool. It's just it'll just be different than what we're used to in the sense
Yeah.
of the Bell, what's the Bell Center, like 20,000 people or whatever it is. And I think ASU's like
It's like
5,500 people or whatever it is.
I hope
Intimate. It makes
I
sense.
hope they just pack it with the craziest fans.
I don't know. How
Just
it'll
like a
be.
university experience.
I mean, I hope so too.
Speaking of that, what are some of your favorite places to play on the road, or just play in general?
I enjoy going into Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I love that city. Usually have good dinner and some fun, and then it's always some good atmosphere there. And then going into Chicago is always a lot of fun. And I've said that since I first came in the league, and that's when they were stacked, and it was LA and Chicago had like the kind of the rivalry, right? So they're always like super intense games. And I remember the one year after we beat them in 14 in the conference final, we went on to win. The next year we had like 2-3 nights in Chicago, and me and a couple of buddies or guys on the team wanted to go out to this bar before one night. And we get to the door, and the door guy is like, how many? And we look back, and I think it was like 6 or 7 guys. And he goes, okay, you have to buy a table. We look back, and we're like, okay, how much is the table? And the guy says like $500 or $1,000, whatever it is. And we're like, okay, yeah, no worries. Like, we'll get the table. Can we just come in? The guy walks in, comes out. He goes, oh no, the table's $5,000. We turn, we look, we're like, we don't practice tomorrow. So we're like, okay, we'll pay the $5,000. Like, can you just like let us in? The guy looks at us, he goes, you guys are fucking, can I swear?
Yeah.
You guys are fucking idiots. I know you're on the LA Kings. You're not coming in here. And we're like, holy, this is insane. The fact that you're not letting us into a club, and we're the stupid guys willing to pay $5,000, $10,000, whatever it was, just to come in, and that's just like, it was just how funny things kind of changed.
Dumb of them, it would have $5,000.
But before that, Chicago is just like, it's such a fun city, and such good restaurants and stuff to do there. So
Yeah. What about you, Evie?
I like New York a lot because my brother's there too. So he took Toff and I out a little bit.
Oh, didn't
And then LA's awesome. Vegas was like my first time just walking around. That was really cool too.
Nice.
Vegas is just like a different experience, especially now. Like even the games, it's like it's just all a show. And then you go in, the game starts playing. You're playing like one of the fastest teams in the league, and you're just like trying to keep up. They're just like buzzing the entire time. You're like, can we just get this game over with? Like,
Yeah.
we need the final buzzer to go, sort of thing. But
Get me out of the city.
I think we lost in overtime.
We
last
did,
year.
yeah. I was on the ice. Yeah.
Nice. Good memory.
But Nick had the breakaway in overtime, and then he just didn't make the right move, and we changed, and then I feel like they got on the ice and just went down and scored. Basically, it was probably a bad change by me and Nick.
Yeah. I think I changed for you. Yeah.
You should have stayed on.
Put Jake in a bad position.
That makes sense.
Yeah. What was it like playing together?
Yeah.
I think
you
it was
want-
fun.
you
wanna take that one?
You want to go first?
We lived in the same building, right? So we hung out. I mean, we're probably not allowed to say this because of the COVID rules. We hung out like 6 days a week. So
Your girlfriends could hang out too, right? That's good to have. Your girlfriends could hang out too, right?
His
That's
wife,
good.
yeah.
Or your wife, sorry, yeah.
so they hung out 7 days a week. So just like the way things worked out, and then getting to the rink and playing. I didn't know anybody getting to Montreal. I knew Gally a little bit, so it was nice to make a friend and then be able to hang out. And I think that kind of made me feel a lot more comfortable, to be honest. And then obviously we had such a good year, and it was a lot of fun. So
Who's a better cook?
I don't think I've ever seen
Jake.
Tyler cook.
Definitely Jake.
or DoorDash, Postmates.
They're awesome cooks.
What is it? Freshco? What was
God,
Fresh
yeah,
Co?
the
Have you-
freshy thing I had to do.
Did you ever see the thing that Jake had to do?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Painful.
Unreal cook.
Yeah.
Jake whipped up some potatoes for us on Monday.
I did.
Those were pretty good.
That's a tough one, huh? Do you guys hang out with any of the NLL teams while you're playing in Calgary or Montreal or any team that has an NLL team, like Vancouver?
No, I haven't. But I was
Never did?
I was also only in Calgary for 30 games or whatever it was, and then playoffs. So I didn't really do a whole lot, and I was kind of like getting traded to Calgary. I knew 8 of the guys, and not even like knew them, but like 8 friends basically. So I was just basically catching up with them and trying to get comfortable and fit in, and really didn't do a whole lot.
I saw Lucic picked you up from the airport. How do you guys know
dropped
each
him
other?
off,
Did Jake drop
I
him
dropped
off?
him off.
Oh, from one friend to the next.
He sent me off with a nice hug and said good luck.
I played sad songs on the way home and cried.
I was also like, hey, because my wife wasn't in Montreal, so I was like, hey, just so you know, like, I need you to drive me to the airport. And this was the day after the Super Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah. We were like, you knew you were probably getting traded, but you didn't know it was gonna be that quick.
No, I had no clue.
Yeah.
And we had the day off, and I woke up and I was like, oh boy, I had like 40 missed text messages. I called my wife out before I even looked at all my messages. I was like, yeah, I think I just got traded. And then obviously I scroll all the way down, and there's some missed phone calls and messages from the GMs of both teams, basically. And I was like, that's when it all hit me, and I had to basically pack as much as I could, as fast as I could, get my hockey gear and fly to Calgary. So
They keep moving to the farthest places, eh? LA to fucking Montreal to Vancouver you can't stay in the same little area, huh?
No, I know. I'm traveling. I'm touching them all, especially all the Canadian teams.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this is my last team in general that I'm going to.
That's got to be tough, just getting traded just like that. Like, how do you deal with that?
I think this time around it was a little bit easier than the first time, because the first time I honestly was like, I'm going to be an LA King for life. You know, I'm never going to leave. I never want to leave. I own a house out here type of thing. And once my name kind of started getting thrown in all the rumors, I was like, okay, like, I wonder where I'm going to go, blah, blah, blah. And fortunately, I went to Vancouver, which is almost, one of the closer places to go. And I loved it, but then COVID hit and all that stuff. And then we ended up moving to Montreal, and that was definitely a whole different experience, having to fly all the way across the country to Canada, basically, obviously, and with the dog and my wife, and find a new apartment that I've never really been to Montreal, so I didn't know anything about the city. And it was also the middle of COVID, basically. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on, but definitely some experiences that I'll never forget.
And what about you? This is like the first year where you've experienced some guys you've gotten closer with being traded.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know. You just kind of started to expect it this year, though. Like, you knew, like, some of the guys I was close with, like Toff, like, we kind of knew you were leaving. We just didn't know when.
Yeah, basically.
And then Lecky, too. Like, I remember the trade deadline day. We were driving together, and he's like, well, I might not see you in a couple hours. I don't know. And then, like, it happened. So, I don't know. You just kind of expect it. And I think after your, like, first couple of years, you're kind of, like, in a way numb to it, where you don't want, like, your good friends to leave, but you're kind of just like, that's
business.
just the
You got
business.
it is tough.
Yeah.
Exactly. The longer you're in the league, the more you understand the business, and especially like after having signing your second, third contracts, that's when you know that it's a business, like, for real. Not in a bad way, but that's just, you kind of, like you said, you get numb to it, and it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, but it's good for you. Like, at least, like, going to Calgary, you knew a lot of the guys you've already played with, so, like, it makes the transition a lot easier too.
Yeah. That's true.
I think we're coming down to the last couple minutes here. Do you want to do any, like, last minute questions?
I was just gonna say it worked out for Lehkonen.
Yeah, it did work out for him.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, it would have sucked to be lost in Tampa again in the final, though.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I have a question for Jake. Well, one of our followers asked, how much does your head weigh?
I don't know, a lot.
5
It's a
pounds?
big head, I guess.
What's the favorite sporting event you've ever been to, and which one do you want to go to?
That's a good
Sporting
question.
event. I went to Super Bowl 50
You.
in, where was that? San Francisco with our whole team. That was pretty fun.
You went as a whole team?
Our whole team went. Yeah, we chartered a plane. Flew the morning of the Super Bowl. Did all the festivities. Went to the game. Flew home that night, and then we got back. The next morning, we practiced at like 7 a.m. and flew all the way to Boston for like a 7-game road trip.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Who was in the Super Bowl that year?
It was Denver, Carolina.
Okay.
Which one?
Yeah, and then Denver ended up winning. That was
Yeah.
Peyton's last year, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
What's on your bucket list for sporting events?
I think I would want to do like some sort of race, like the Formula One in like Monaco, or like NASCAR in like Talladega.
That'd be awesome.
That's a good one.
We want to go down with the group of the boys to like a NASCAR event.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I want to do, but I also want to do like a NASCAR in like in the South. So it's like you're like camping and you're like doing it right. Like I've been to a couple of NASCARs. There's one in Sonoma, California, and it's like wine country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's still NASCAR, but it's like the fancy version of it. So it's still a lot of fun, but it's not the way that I want to experience it.
It's not Alabama or Florida.
You don't get the real fans.
Like I want to do like a Florida or like the one in Michigan. I heard it's a lot of fun too, but we'll see.
And Evie, what about you? What's a bucket list event?
That's a good one, actually. I would say that, or one of the I've been to Montreal's F1 race, but like those are such cool events.
Yeah.
So I think one of those would be cool. I've been to one NFL game. I'd like to see a couple more.
Bills
Going to
game.
like a cool baseball park too, like Fenway.
Like every
Yeah.
park.
Yeah, like
Fenway would be cool.
Fenway, I think would be my number one stadium to go to.
I think one of mine would be like a UFC event in Vegas.
True. Yeah.
I feel like that'd be pretty cool.
I was at the UFC event in Vegas when Masvidal kneed what's his name in the
my
head?
God,
Was it
Askren.
Ben Askren?
Yeah. That was
I was
insane.
at that one. It was the most like I enjoyed the UFC experience, but the buzz in the arena like had me on edge the whole time. Like I was almost like I'm like a full on arena brawl could start right now, or it's gonna go well. Like it's like one or the other. And I was just,
You know what'd be fun too is a WWE event.
That would be
be
so
fun.
funny.
Yeah.
There's just
like
so much
SummerSlam or whatever.
testosterone.
Yeah.
And we have one more question for you coming up. Is just what's a good time you're looking forward to, just in general, whether it's hockey or life.
I enjoy the best part of playing professional hockey is like the push for the playoffs and like getting into the playoffs and then going from there. So I think almost like that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to like the last 20, 15 games of the season. And that's when you're like trying to figure out what position you're going to be in and trying to make the playoffs. And then that like week kind of buffer period before the playoffs start is always a lot of fun too, because you're in a bunch of meetings and you're getting prepared for what's to come. And that's when the hockey intensity picks up and you know that the fans are going to be more intense too. And that's just like the best part of the year. And that's definitely what I'm looking forward to now, especially at this part of the summer too, when I'm going to Calgary in like a week now. So it's like, you're like, okay, the season's about to start, trying to get prepared for everything, getting an apartment and all those things too. So that's kind of where my mind is right now.
Nice. And Jake, what's a good time for you?
Next time I get to see Toff.
Oh, what a fucking
I was
answer.
hoping you would say
What an
that.
answer.
You guys gotta drop them.
I was hoping you would say that.
I think I'm in Montreal like relatively early in the season. Am I not? Like November?
I hope it's a weekend
I don't
game.
know.
We should come to that game.
'Cause I'll
I'll
be
see you there.
Yeah.